Kylie Harper-Larson.
Here.
Ankor Patel. Angela Van.
Here.
Brian Stenberg.
Here.
And David Searle. We have quorum. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. Of course. All right. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Are there any postponements or an agenda approval?
No.
Okay. All right.
It's okay.
Everyone
I just
get it?
have to talk.
If we could do the agenda approval vote, please.
Great. Thank you. Agenda approval? Motion? 10?
So moved. Second.
All right. No one opposed?
Just have to shout.
Motion's approved. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. All those approved?
Aye.
All right. All right. Are there any comments, Rick, by the public on non-agenda items?
Nothing on non-agenda items.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Moving on. Only comments by the chair. Since I'm the chair today, just walked in, just found out that I'm the chair this morning. So if we could just keep the victims of Hurricane Milton in our thoughts and prayers. And, that's the business that I'm in. And fortunately, it's catastrophic out there. And all I can say is just please keep those people in your thoughts and prayers. That's really about it for me on that. Thank you. All right, public hearing. We're going to move on to item A1, which is the bioscience research protection. So we're going to have the staff first. Is that correct? That's the sheet.
Yes, sir.
The sheet I was looking for.
The first item will be presented by our staff, Alondra Lopez Mojica, and this is the future land use amendment, and it's for the bioresearch protection overlay revision.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Alondra Lopez Mojica for the Planning Division, and the amendment before you today is the Bioscience Research Protection Overlay revisions. So I'd like to first begin with a brief history of the overlay and the advisory board for some context of the proposed text amendment. So in 2003, the state of Florida and Palm Beach County began efforts to attract and locate the Scripps Research Institute in South Florida as a magnet program with the intent of attracting other related biotech and research industries to the region. However, by 2006, the initial location was scrapped by the Board of County Commissioners, resulting in Abacoa in the town of Jupiter and the Brigger parcel in Palm Beach Gardens to serve as an alternative site for the Scripps Research Institute. To satisfy the second condition, the county entered an interlocal agreement with the town of Jupiter, the city of Palm Beach Gardens, the town of Lake Park, the town of Mangonia Park, and the city of Riviera Beach after identifying properties with potential for over 50 million square feet within a 10-mile radius. The interlocal agreement created the Bioscience Land Protection Advisory Board and also required that each jurisdiction consider establishing a bioscience research protection overlay into their comprehensive plan and to include policies for a supermajority vote to protect land within the overlay. So later that year, the county adopted text amendments to the future land use and intergovernmental coordination elements and added the boundaries to the special planning areas map establishing the overlay. The overlay policies included encouraging bioscience research / technology uses, prohibiting residential and non-related commercial uses within the overlay, requiring any proposed future land use atlas amendment or rezoning application which proposes a use contrary to the purpose of the overlay to receive a recommendation by the advisory board prior to going before the BCC, and requiring a supermajority vote of the BCC in order to convert any property which permits bioscience research / biotechnology uses to residential or commercial uses which are not clearly accessory to bioscience research / biotechnology uses. So as the map on screen shows, the overlay consists of 2 areas totaling just under 1,400 acres, with 99% of those parcels having an industrial future land use designation. And we would like to clarify that the proposed text will not change the future land use designation of these properties. The first area is located within Palm Beach Park of Commerce, 2 miles south of Indiantown Road and east of the Beeline Highway. This portion of the overlay is also within the United Technology Corporation Protection Area overlay. The second area is located east of I-95 between North Lake Boulevard and just south of Blue Heron Boulevard. Continuing with the background, in 2016, the BCC approved the First Amendment to the Interlocal Agreement, extending the term of the advisory board by 10 years, from March 14, 2016 to March 14, 2026. On January 23rd of this year, the advisory board voted unanimously to sunset, so the BCC gave direction to staff to sunset the advisory board and to terminate the interlocal agreement. Following that, the county and each municipality within the interlocal agreement passed resolutions to terminate the agreement. Finally, on June 20th, the board initiated text amendments to the comprehensive plan to implement the termination of the interlocal agreement. This proposed text amendment will revise the comprehensive plan related to the Bioscience Research Protection Overlay. Staff is providing the following options for the board's consideration. The first is to delete policies related only to the Bioscience Land Advisory Board, which pertains to the future land use and intergovernmental coordination elements. Or the second option is to delete the overlay in its entirety, which includes deleting an objective and policies within the future land use and intergovernmental coordination elements, as well as deleting the overlay from the Special Planning Areas map of the map series. So staff is recommending approval as previously mentioned, and we're providing 2 options for the board's consideration. The first is to approve the option in Exhibit 1A, and the second is to approve the option in Exhibit 1B. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time, and our project managers are available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? There is no, it's only from staff today on this one. Yes, Barbara?
Yes, if I might. So we have either option 1A or 1B. I would certainly be helped if I had some staff guidance, a little more on those benefits about, those 2 options.
Well, there's just very little references pertaining to the board itself in the comp plan, but the overlay really is there, and it pretty much describes the boundaries. As stated before, removing the overlay would not change anything to the land use. It's just having to have more, I would say, description on what the goals. So either way, we are. It's up to you, your discretion. So it's not removing the board is just secondary. The overlay is just basically just guidance to have additional protection. That's what the way.
Thank you.
Yes, Barbara?
So my understanding is 99% of the property that is addressed in this overlay has already been zoned and taken care of and whatnot, and it cannot be changed. So basically, we're done. So this is just going to delete some manpower, man-hours, county staff time, and whatnot, because it's just done. So let's just let it go into the sunset and move on. That's what we're basically doing.
Yes.
And is there any preference regarding 1 or 2? 1A or 1B?
No, not for our perspective, because it's just an overlay. We will still review it, but it would be not meaningful.
Okay. Then can I entertain a motion so we can move on to do option 1B, delete policies related to the Bioscience Land Protection Advisory Board within the FLUE and ICE.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? If I don't hear any, I'll call it the vote. I think we're good with all vote. I don't think we need to do a roll call. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, sounds like it approved unanimously. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you. West Delray RV Resort. And on this one, we'll have the applicant coming right up. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Lauren McClellan with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture. On behalf of the applicants, Karen and Roger Fina, I will be presenting the West Delray RV Resort Comprehensive Plan and text and map amendment. So the two requests before the board this morning are to allow a recreational vehicle resort or campground in the commercial rec future land use designation in the ag reserve tier, and then the comprehensive plan map amendment to commercial rec with the underlying agricultural reserve. So the site probably looks familiar to most of you on the board. It was before you in March for the text initiation, which we're here for today, and then several years before that, it was in for a comp plan amendment to change it to commerce. At that time, it was generally agreed that this 10-acre property was not appropriate for a single-family residence, but commerce was ultimately not supported due to proximity of the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge as well as the West Delray Regional Park. So now this property, which is located on the north side of Atlantic Avenue, is proposing a use that is much more complementary to those two uses and consistent. So the request is for the RV resort campground. And I use resort and campground. The word in the code is campground, but I'm using the word resort because campground insinuates like people are camping. That's not what this is. So now we're back with a comprehensive plan amendment from AGR to commercial rec. This map shows the property as well as the Atlantic Avenue corridor. You can see the various existing land uses that are along the Atlantic Avenue corridor. We've got the industrial corridor along Atlantic as well as down State Road 7. We've got several commercial uses as well as the MLU, mixed land use with institutional and multifamily there all the way on the east side. This property is surrounded by a mix of recreation, commercial, agricultural, utility uses. At the intersection of State Road 7 and Atlantic Avenue, we have the Wawa gas station with a commercial plaza. There's also a post office to the west of that, and to the south of that is an AmeriGas facility. Then staying on the south side of Atlantic Avenue, we've got some other agricultural uses. We've got shipping and mulching facility. We have landscape services as well as a future FP&L substation. And then on the north side of Atlantic Avenue, starting at State Road 7, we've got agriculture and equestrian uses. And then immediately to the north and to the west of the property is the West Delray Regional Park. And then further to the west of that is the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge. The proposed RV resort would be a compatible use with the county park, as the park supports a variety of activities. There's archery, and I showed you pictures of these during the initiation. I just didn't want to bore you with the same pictures. The remote control airplane field, remote control boat lake, remote control car track, helicopter field, as well as mountain bike trails and a frisbee golf. And then the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge, which is further to the west, but the entrance is up on Lee Road, 3 miles to the north. That's the main entrance to the Lox Wildlife Refuge. And the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge is about 145,000 acres, and it supports 300,000 visitors a year. Just to break it down, it's about 822 visitors per day, and there's a variety of activities in the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge. hiking, biking, canoeing, hunting, fishing, wildlife photography, bird watching, all of those types of activities. So the proposed RV resort would provide a place for those nature enthusiasts to stay while visiting the refuge. So just to point out a couple facts regarding RV resorts, campgrounds. During season, the county parks, they have campgrounds and RV spaces that can be rented. Those are completely booked during season. The RV style has really grown in popularity with technology enhancements and more job opportunities for remote work. So if you look at the West Coast and if you look at the central part of the state, there's a lot of these types of RV resorts and parks to support the growing pastime. However, on the East Coast, there's only a handful in Palm Beach County. In fact, I put a 10-mile radius on the property, and the only other similar use is actually the one that's in Delray Beach. It's the Del Raton RV Park. The ones that are in lighter shade, those are actually the Palm Beach County parks. So you can see from this map that they are few and far between, and they are located near attractions. So there's some along Lake Okeechobee where people want to fish and see nature. There's many of them located along the beach fronts. The ones up in the north are near all of the wetlands that are up there. And then there's one in West Palm that is near the water park, and then of course the Lion Country Safari. So, and this site is located near the park as well as the Locks Wildlife Refuge. So I talked about the one up in Jupiter. These are just pictures of what that looks like. That's why I said I don't like using the word campground, even though it is in the zoning code. You know, these aren't campgrounds. They are RV resorts. They have amenities. It is, the applicant is proposing to do a use similar in the sense that it's going to have a clubhouse. It's going to have outdoor amenities. It's going to have indoor amenities, things for people to do while they're staying at the resort. And so you have the full text amendment detailed in your staff report, but there is, I'm just touching on basically what the crux of the change is. And so that is to allow an RV park within the commercial rec future land use designation within the ag reserve tier, subject to very specific criteria. So it would need to be a minimum of 5 acres. It would need to be located on the north side of Atlantic Avenue, adjacent to the West Delray Regional Park. And then it would have to provide preserve consistent with the AGR MUPD as outlined in parcel 1, or in policy 151G. That is for parcels that are larger than 16 acres. So if for any reason this site grows, or if there's another site on the south side that's bigger than 16 acres, it would have to provide preserve. When I was before you for the text initiation, we did have a letter of support from the Alliance of Delray. We did get an updated letter from the Alliance of Delray. They are still in support of the initiation and of the transmittal of this comp plan amendment application. We are continuing to work with them as the site plan comes through. They have expressed their concerns about connecting to water and sewer. Our client has committed to connect to water and sewer for the use. And then we will continue to discuss the site plan with the Alliance. So on behalf of the FINA family, I respectfully request a recommendation of approval for the proposed comprehensive plan amendments. The use is compatible and appropriate next to the West Delray Regional Park and the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge. The Planning Commission unanimously supported the initiation of this text amendment. The BCC initiated the text amendment. We have letters of support from the Alliance. And finally, staff is recommending approval with conditions, which we agree to, of the map amendment, and they're recommending approval of the text amendment. If you have any questions, I'm available after staff's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We can have staff presentation, please.
Yes, Mr. Jerry Lodge, our senior planner, will be doing the presentation for staff.
Good morning, Jerry Lodge of the Planning Division. So this amendment is West Delray RV Resort. And as applicant just explained, this is both a future land use amendment and a text amendment. So the privately proposed text amendment was initiated this May, and it requests to revise the future land use element to allow recreational vehicle parks in the commercial recreation future land use within the agricultural reserve tier, subject to criteria which include a minimum of 5 acres, that it be located on the north side of Atlantic Avenue and adjacent to the West Delray Regional Park, which would make this text amendment only applicable to the subject site of the concurrent flu application. Also that there's preserve area requirements consistent with AGR MUPDs. The text amendment will also clarify that the development potential for an RV park is based on sites per acre, which is regulated within the ULDC. The CR Flu is included in the plan to accommodate a need for both public and private commercial recreation uses, which are generally large in scale and can serve the demand of both the local and tourist populations of the county. There are a handful of properties with the CR Flu throughout the county, and those include the South Florida Fairgrounds, Lion Country Safari, and the Crooked Hook RV Resort. There's also 4 golf courses with the CR Flu and several sites developed with an underlying residential or industrial flu. Specifically for the agricultural reserve tier, the master plan consultants recommended allowing golf courses within the tier to preserve visual open space. And this led to the CR Flu being permitted within the tier with the provision that only freestanding golf courses be permitted on the CR designated property within the ag reserve tier. To date, there are no properties within the tier that have a CR Flu. Now for the flu application request, the site's just over 10 acres and located on the north side of Atlantic Avenue, about 1/2 mile west of State Road 7. The applicant's proposing to change the future land use from AGR to commercial recreation and retaining underlying AGR. And the concurrent zoning application is requesting a rezoning from AGR to RVPD in order to develop a recreational vehicle park with up to 121 RV sites. The maximum length of stay at campsites are regulated within ULDC also, and it's required by state statute that they do not allow a user to stay for more than 30 consecutive days within a 6-month period or more than 180 total days within a calendar year. In addition, ULDC amendments will be needed for the concurrent zoning application. Okay, so here's an overview of the area with the site outlined in red. On the north and west side of the site is the West Delray Regional Park, and the park contains a variety of unique recreational uses, including radio-controlled airplanes, boats, helicopters, and cars, and it has amenities such as runways, landing pads, dirt tracks, bleachers, and metal pavilions in order to accommodate participants in those activities. The subject site and all areas surrounding it primarily have AGR future land use designations and agricultural or recreational uses. Further west of the site is the Arthur R. Marshall Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge, which has a conservation flu. And further east of the site along 441 are several properties with industrial, commerce, and commercial low future land uses with underlying AGR. Staff's assessment concludes that the proposal is compatible with the adjacent and nearby recreational agricultural uses, and a proposed RV campground could provide a complementary use to the adjacent West Delray Regional Park. Additionally, the applicant provided an adequate justification, and this proposed amendment is consistent with all the applicable policies in the plan. So staff's proposing conditions of approval to limit the site to 121 RV sites and to require concurrent adoption hearing for the flu and zoning applications. Staff's recommending approval with conditions, and the motion is approval with conditions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any comment cards on this one, Rick?
No, this one.
Okay, since we don't have any comment cards at the Planning Commission, do we have any questions? We'll start down there with Dagmar, and we'll go work this way.
2 questions. One is, how much preserve property are they required for this project, and where is that located?
So as part of their text amendment, they are requesting that the preserve requirement for this be the same as AGR MUPDs, which is anything less than 16 acres would be not required to provide a preserve. So since this is 10 acres, they would not be required to provide one.
Okay, so there is no preserve property that they're setting aside.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I have a question for the applicant. So following on that question about preserve and whatnot, and the fact that there's going to be 121 spaces, this is a pretty going to be a pretty tight property between radio-controlled helicopters, RV sites, and whatnot. But my question is on regarding infrastructure, existing infrastructure. Is this served by water and sewer?
It is not.
And what about what's your electric load there? Is that served by? Is there any power on the site?
There is power on the site because there's existing single-family house on the site right now that's on well and septic.
So you don't know, is there an 8-phase that's nearby where they can draw power? Because these RVs draw a lot of power. Typically, a single-family residence will have two, maybe at most two 200-amp boxes on the side of the house. So you know anything about the infrastructure?
That would all be done during the site plan and permitting phase.
Okay. I mean, I would think we'd want to sort of add a condition that as part of this approval that the infrastructure be installed in order to service the site. One more question is the pads for the RVs. Is that going to be asphalt or rock or stone? Do you know?
Right now, we're looking at doing either some kind of asphalt, concrete, or pavers. Again, haven't decided that yet either. That'll be during the site, but it's going to be an improved surface.
Do your clients have any experience in running RV parks?
As I say, he is partnering with people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Go ahead. We'll go this way. Rick?
Just on, before you head back there, just picking up on Glenn's comments earlier, is there an intention as you go forward to put in holding tanks or to bring in water and or connect to sewage?
The intent is to extend lines to connect to water and sewer.
Okay. And as far as the other conditions that the planning has set forth, you're amenable to those?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions for you as well as staff. First of all, with the infrastructure that we're talking about from an environmental standpoint, most all of the other RV parks have their own stations where they do treatment on site prior to putting that into what we would call waste stations, prior to putting that into the municipal sewer structure. Is that something your clients are willing to do because it helps out our current infrastructure in the county?
I can certainly ask, and that will all come up during the permitting and during the site plan approval phase.
Okay. All right. Also, to piggyback off of what Glenn asked, environmentally, this is a very contentious area. And we need to do whatever we can to control waste, hazardous material waste, and also oil and gas spills, which are predominant in and around motor coach RV parks. I happen to know a little bit about it. So within that being, the pads being concrete and asphalt are not ideal, and it needs to be able to be trailing. So would your client be willing to consider pads that are more environmentally and drainage sound so that filtration can properly occur, and that to be treated and held on site before it goes into any of our drainage and canal systems?
It's something we can look at.
Okay. All right. And then staff question, and good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to be here.
Yes.
Always get the award for driving the furthest, right? If we look at Exhibit 1B in the applicant's proposed text amendment, looking at Item 2 and Item B, that's pigeonholing this site, period. And there are other sites with a minimum of 5 acres. I did my own search in the AGR area, which if we're all gung-ho about doing this and getting people to the Loxahatchee Wildlife Reserve, which I am, and getting more people into our parks, why do we want to just leave this in a text amendment for 121 people who would be very affluent? By the way, I did a little research, and the common motor coach these days is over $300,000 base. So we're talking about super affluent. They're not playing Frisbee. or fly in our seat planes. You know who is? My little guy in the back. Okay. We couldn't stay there, even if we wanted to, because it would be a motorized coach thing. So if we're going to look at this, is item B, is that mandatory, or could we remove that if we are looking to increase? I mean, if we're going to make a text amendment, it needs to be able to be beneficial to everybody who's got land in the county where this could be used.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is a privately initiated text amendment. So the applicant is is required to make it site specific.
Okay.
In terms of expanding the CR to other sites, we haven't done that analysis. So as far as, staff suggesting that, we couldn't give you those parameters today.
Okay.
But if you all, see the opportunity, that's something we could look into.
Okay, so they are required with their text amendment to make it very site specific.
Correct.
And then to summarize, then we can then, after a vote is made, yea or nay, could then advise staff to look into this.
Sure, we can reflect in the minutes that you guys have asked staff to investigate the possibility of looking at other places for this CR land use.
Thank you very much, staff, and thank you, applicant.
Okay, moving right down the line. Any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a real quick question for
Yes.
staff. So would staff be, would it be appropriate, or what does staff think about an additional condition that the infrastructure be in place as part of this approval we're looking at?
So again, we can always have your recommendation of the condition, but there are things in place already. If you look at your staff report on page E13, the health department, and all the other county agencies will be looking at this for all the requirements, including the impervious areas that these vehicles will be on, as well as any other water sewer requirements. I believe on page 25 there are requirements for connection. Oh, there are indications of availability, water and sewer hookup. So the applicant will probably have to, do that and coordinate with the utilities department for those services as well.
So it's part of the process.
Part
I
of
just
the
didn't
process.
want anything to slip through
Yes,
the cracks.
Yes,
Okay.
it's part of the process.
And if I could add, we've had discussions with the zoning division on this, so they're aware also when it comes through the site plan process, and we review it at that point too.
Got it.
So is this the same case where we would approve the motion but then put in our notes what we're suggesting?
I don't think there's any need. I think that's the whole point of what Stephanie's saying, is that all of his concerns are going to be addressed in the zoning process. So,
Well, I know in
there's
the
a con-
past we've just made it kind of
Yeah.
crystal clear
is a
in the
concurrent-
notes
there
what
is a
we were-
concurrent
what
app-
we were concerned about.
Sorry,
That's all.
there's a concurrent application as well, so you're...
Okay.
May I?
Yes, Barbara. Then I'll go back to you.
What perhaps we could reflect in the notes is the point well taken from Kylie Harper Larson that at some future point applications may come through. This being a private text amendment, it is only for this applicant. But perhaps the notes could reflect that we had a discussion about future uses and future sites.
Yes, we
Could
can
that be included?
we can reflect that moving to the next step, which is the board, but we'll reflect those are your comments at Planning Commission.
After the motion.
Yes.
After the motion is either approved or not approved.
Yes.
Correct. Kylie?
To follow up
And Dr. Donda.
in the preserve requirement, I understand that they're trying to align themselves with the AGR MUPD, but we're talking about a high capacity usage for, what, 10 acres? 10.1 acres. All right, and let's just say 121 sites, and let's just say 2 people per site. All right, that's 242 people on 10 acres. And let's exclude swimming pools and parking spots and clubhouses. All right, so we're condensing that down to, I don't know, 8-ish. All right, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of environmental load, okay? And we have to be conscientious about it. And if we're going to let this happen, which I'm in support of, we got to make sure there's a preserve requirement, people. We got to conserve that green space elsewhere. If we're going to bring them in, it's asinine to bring them in without trying to make sure that green space is conserved somewhere else. So, I mean, is there some way that we can write that in
I don't think so.
I mean,
to the amendment?
I think if you're concerned that there's no preserve requirement, I think you reject the amendment.
That's right.
Okay.
You vote yes or no.
May I?
I'm going to go to Dagmar, and then I'll come back to you, Barbara. Dagmar?
Well, first of all, I do have faith in the county that they're going to make sure that the waste materials and whatnot will be properly disposed of. The county has a pretty extensive covering department, multiple departments to make sure this will be protected. The environment will be protected. But going back to Kelly Harper Larson, I only like this project because it is pigeonholed. This is in the Ag Reserve. I think this is a great new use to be introduced, but only to that area because of the regional park being contiguous to this RV resort. I am comfortable in the fact that you can't stay longer than 30 days or 180 days for an entire throughout the year. But and as far as not having preserved property, yeah, it is annoying. But the county commissioners, they adopted the fact that if you have anything going up in the Ag Reserve that's less than 16 acres, you do not have to do preserve. And that's why I brought up the question, because I wanted on the records that here is another project that does not have to have preserved property. I'm annoyed, but it's not going to get changed. But I do support the project. I think it's a unique use, but because of the location and whatnot, and I'm really happy it's not going to be more commerce west of 441, I do support the project, and I do have faith in the county monitoring the health issues. Thank you.
Barbara? I'll come back to you, Glenn.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to use the term, we lost that battle on the number of acres in terms of requirement for preserved land. The Board of County Commissioners decided that the minimum size would be 16 acres. And here precisely is an example where we lose that option because it's 10.1 acres. Kylie has made that point, Dagmar's made that point, and I would just emphasize it because I expect we will have more private text amendments, just under that 16 acre limit requirement. Thank you.
All right. I just had one question, and I'll come back to you, Glenn. For traffic on here, it says there's a decrease of 244 net daily trips, but we're putting in 121 spots for RV. And I was reading in that letter, and I couldn't come up with, I didn't understand it. Can you explain how there's a decrease in traffic when we're adding RV spots? It's on page E13.
Dominic Simmers, for the record. Unfortunately, I don't have my laptop with me, so I cannot.
Or it's not close enough. There you go.
Dominic Simmers, for the record. Unfortunately, I do not have my laptop with me, so I cannot go in reference to what you said. I believe that the reason why that there's a decrease. Okay. The reason of the decrease is because the current land use generates more trips than the proposed. The proposed is RV, and then the current is nursery. So that's the reason why that there's a decrease in terms of daily.
So I looked at, okay, if that's what the study came up with, I just found that hard to understand if you're putting in 121 lots with the amount of time that they're allowed to stay there, that would actually decrease traffic by that much too, a decrease of 244 net. I guess if it's the daily trips.
It all based on the rates because we actually refer to the ITE trip generation manual to get the rates. So if the rates are not available, sometimes we go in the field and then we conduct our own survey. But for this particular case, the rates are actually available in the ITE trip generation manual.
Okay.
For the agricultural, for the nursery, they actually generate more trips than the RV park.
For the daily trips.
In terms of daily.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Back to Glenn.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, we're governed by the ULDC, and unfortunately, or depending on what position you take, unfortunately, we're governed by the ULDC, and if we can't decide to make our own open space or preserve requirements because we'd be unilaterally changing the ULDC. So defer to the county attorney on that. So although it's a good idea, the problem is that we have to follow the rules as they are in place now. And then just a comment to your comment about the trips. So in the ITE, they give a certain trip generation ratio for certain uses. So if you have a nursery, presumably you'd have trucks and cars and people buying things going back and forth. It doesn't mean that's what they're actually doing now. It looks like a sleepy single-family home there, but they have to use the ITE because that's what the zoning designation is, and that generates a whole bunch more traffic. A busy nursery is kind of a busy place.
Got it. Thank you. All right, guess go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. To pick up on that, I agree. Just because we have 121 spaces, and again, I do support this project. I liked it when it came before us back in May. Anybody bringing in that size of an RV is probably going to be trailering another vehicle with them. And they're going to be going out, and they're going to be going up and down 441. They're going to be going eastbound on Atlantic. They'll be looking at supermarkets and retail shops and so on and so forth. So I think the traffic is going to be probably what we would expect it to be as opposed to lesser. Possibly a little bit more, and then you also have the problem of those large vehicles moving in and out of there as they come and go. There's going to be some disruptions as well. But again, overall, I support the project. I think it's a great use for that space.
All right. If no further comments from the commission, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve with conditions as requested by staff.
All right. Motion by Glenn Coleman, second by
Sherry.
I'm sorry. By Melissa? Sherry?
Sherry.
I'm sorry.
You can call me.
Call you whatever.
Don't call me late.
I'm like the other chair. I'm calling everybody different names here. It's all good. Do you have that? Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I think we're going to be good. I'm not going to do a roll call vote on this. Anyone opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the Rawlings Estates, and I'd like the applicant to come up to podium 2, please. We have a bunch on this one,
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Matthew Barnes, Senior Planner or Senior Project Manager at WGI. Here with me from WGI is Ariana Hilliard and my co-agents from Miskel Backman, Scott Backman, and Beth Schrantz. This amendment was here before you in April and was initiated back then, initiated by the Board of County Commissioners in May. Nothing has changed in terms of the guts of the amendment of the overlay, and the map amendment is still the same. So I'll go through it with you. The only thing that's really changed is the site plan or the subdivision plan has changed just a little bit. That's concurrently processing with zoning. So the location of this property is just to the north and west of Lion Country Safari. So that means it's north of Okeechobee, west of Seminole Pratt Whitney Road, and the access is on 180th Avenue North, which is an Indian Trail Improvement District maintained road. The amendment proposes the following, which is to create what we're now calling the Loxahatchee Estates overlay in the rural tier. And with that, we're revising, we're creating, I should say, we're revising a couple of objectives and creating a new objective and policy to govern the density and intensity of the Loxahatchee Estates overlay. The FLUA amendment is, like I said, it's the same. We're proposing to go from what is currently RR10 to LR1. And then concurrently, not in front of this board, but we are processing a Class A conditional use, which is required when you have a residential project of more than 50 acres in size, and a companion overlay district in the ULDC, also called the Loxahatchee Estates overlay. As I mentioned before, maybe the location of this project is in the rural tier, but is right next to the exurban tier. To our immediate east and a little further to the north, you can see is the exurban tier, which covers a portion of the acreage. As you know, of course, this is a portion of the acreage. A lot of the acreage is further up on North Lake Boulevard, but this is sort of the southern and westernmost portion of the acreage. And then there's an objective in the comprehensive plan that governs the rural tier that says essentially that the maximum density in the rural tier is supposed to be 1 per 5 acres and up to 1 per 20. There are exceptions in there already for special planning areas such as the Western Communities Residential Overlay and the Trotting Center, so we'd be adding the Loxahatchee Estates overlay to that list of special planning areas. And then we would be creating a new objective 1.4.3 that specifies sort of the performance criteria, if you will, for the Loxahatchee Estates overlay. It would define the boundaries, which are specific to this project. It would also state that you have to, and we are doing this, of course, that you have to process a future land use atlas amendment concurrent with your zoning application. You have to have at least 100 acres in size, which we have 104. The maximum density is 1 unit per acre, and with no further increases through the workforce housing program or other density bonus programs such as transfer of development rights. And the minimum lot size is 1 acre. This is the future land use map. As I explained earlier, this is RR10. There is RR10 a little further to our west, but really this is the only RR10 property in the immediate area. There's RR5 to our immediate west and north, and then RR2.5 is what is was what the acreage is. And then we're proposing again to have the overlay, and then do a future land use atlas amendment to the
Excuse
LR.
me, could you speak just a little louder?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
We're going to the LR1 land use amendment. This is an important slide that I wanted to point out. Even though we're proposing 1 acre lots, as you'll see in a minute, we're not actually. It's 104 acres. We're not proposing 104 lots. We can't. Under the current ULDC, you have to, there's a 25% preserve set aside. We have to dedicate land in our property for private roads. We have to drain the property. We're preserving wetlands. So the actual gross density ends up being 1 acre for every 1.93, or sorry, 1 lot for every 1.93 acres. And it's important to note that, like in the acreage to our east, those lots are an average of 1.24 acres per lot, and that's because when the acreage was developed, there are no common areas, right? Their lots go lot to lot. Their lots go to the center line of the streets, and it goes to the center line of the drainage canals on the backside. So we're actually going to be less dense than what the acreage is developed as. And then this is the proposed subdivision plan that has changed a little bit since you last saw this in April. The north property has stayed relatively the same. It's still, the majority of our lots are on the north parcel. So north is turned to the right here, by the way. So it's a fairly simple design. There's a ring road. Again, that's a private right-of-way that lines up, the access to that lines up with Prado Boulevard in the acreage. a lake in the center for stormwater management control purposes, some dry detention at the front, and a recreation area also at the front entrance. What's changed is on the south parcel, there used to be more lots proposed there. We've pulled that back. Now there's only 3 lots that directly abut 180th Avenue North, which the net result of that was the preserve area was increased from around 14 acres to 21.5 acres, which is now slightly over the 25% preserve area requirement. Also, the wetlands, the 2 wetlands you see at the top of the screen are exactly the same as before. The 3rd wetland that's closer to 180th Avenue North, we're now able to preserve more of that wetland than previously. So the total acreage of the preserved wetlands is just under 8 acres. I think last time it was like 6.75. So where we are in the process, again, this was initiated back in April and May. Shortly thereafter, we applied for the zoning application and the future land use atlas amendment and the text amendment. We're here today on the 11th of October for transmittal. It'll go to the Board of County Commissioners pending your recommendation on November 6th, and then, in either December or January, the zoning application will go forward to the Zoning Commission, and then everything will come back together at February for adoption. I mentioned before, this is in the Indian Trail Improvement District, part of the county where they maintain the drainage and the roads. Back in March, their board voted to initiate the activation process, which we're still going through. We have a draft activation agreement that's going to be wrapped up in the next few months. Also important to note, ITID is a DRO reviewing agency, so they've been reviewing the subdivision plan all along. They don't have any outstanding comments at this point on the subdivision plan. One thing I did want to discuss that we differ slightly with on staff is regarding the workforce housing. Our client fully intends to comply with the workforce housing program, but in the staff report, they're recommending that the 10%, we have no issue with the 10%, which equals 5 units. In the staff report, they're recommending that be done on-site, and we're proposing to do that off-site through the Exchange Builder program. We just don't think that in a subdivision such as this and where it is in the county that it makes sense to have workforce housing in this location that's pretty remote in terms of employment opportunities. Workforce housing should be in more areas closer to proximity for employment and transit and things like that. So that pretty much concludes my presentation. Staff goes next. I'll give you a sneak peek. They do recommend approval. I think this sentence from their staff report kind of sums it up well, that the amendment request to the LR1 is appropriate considering the established density and development pattern of the acreage located directly east of the subject site within the exurban tier. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for staff presentation, please?
Yes, sir. The staff presentation will be presented by Mr. Travis Goodson, our senior planner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Travis Goodson with the Planning Division. Having difficulty hearing you all this morning, so hopefully this will help do the trick. So as you've just heard, the item before you is a comprehensive plan text and future land use amendment application known as Rawlings Estates. This application, the text amendment part, was initiated by the BCC in May and is to establish the Loxahatchee Estates overlay within the rural tier in order to allow for low-density residential development subject to criteria enumerated within the overlay. The future land use atlas amendment component of the application is a request to amend the land use from rural residential 1 unit per 10 acres to low residential 1 unit per acre on a 104-acre parcel, which is located on the west side of 180th Avenue North, south of Sycamore Drive, and west of Seminole Pratt Whitney. This is within the Central Western Communities area, just outside the acreage. The concurrent zoning application requests a subdivision for development of 54 single-family homes, and a ULDC amendment is also in process to establish the Loxahatchee Estates overlay within the zoning code. within the comprehensive plan, there are objectives and policies related to the rural and exurban tiers, which are primarily designed to recognize and preserve rural, equestrian, and agricultural uses of these tiers. It sets for rural levels of service standards, directs the ULDC to provide for rural zoning regulations, such as design standards. Density in the rural and exurban tiers is based upon a parcel's future land use designation. So an RR5 is a 1 unit per 5 acre density, RR10, and so forth. The RR 2.5 is specific to the exurban tier only. And it should be noted that not every parcel or area within these tiers conforms to these minimums, as many of them, like the acreage, existed in their current configuration prior to the adoption of the 1989 Comprehensive Plan. And so in this instance, much of the acreage directly to the east, while it has a FLU designation of RR 2.5, a lot of the built density average is about 1.25 acres. The proposed text amendment will establish the Loxahatchee Estates overlay, allow for a minimum of 1 unit, maximum density of 1 unit per acre, will not have access to density bonuses or TDRs, and is subject to location criteria. Each of the proposed lots must also be a minimum of 1 acre in size. The overlay also requires submittal of a concurrent zoning application, which is in process. And the FLU amendment to LR1 will also be conditioned at 54 maximum units. So just quickly around the surrounding area, you have to the north, west, and south lands within the rural tier in the RR5, RR10 designation. They support primarily single-family residential and various agricultural equestrian uses. We also notice that directly to the east of the site within the orange shading is the exurban tier, which has a FLU of RR 2.5, average lot size of 1.25 acres. Similarly, these lots also support various single family and agricultural type uses. And then farthest to the northeast of the city of Westlake and to the southeast is Lion Country Safari. So staff's assessment has found the text amendment to establish the overlay is an alternative mechanism to increase density. It allows for a low-density residential development subject to criteria as stated and is limited to the subject site only. The proposed single-family homes and the level of density is compatible with the built density of the area, as are the 1 acre lot size minimums proposed. So a summary of the conditions of approval that staff are recommending. The first is to limit the maximum number of units at 54, which is consistent with what is shown on the concurrent zoning application. Second, consistent with prior board direction, staff is recommending that 10% of the units be provided as workforce housing units on site. However, as Mr. Barnes has explained, the applicant is proposing to provide these 10% required units off-site, and they're choosing to do the exchange builder program, which allows for the developer to engage with a different developer that will ultimately construct those required units in a different part of the county. And then thirdly, we have a standard condition of approval here requiring that the FLU amendment and the zoning application be heard at the same hearing and adopted together. So as part of the amendment process, the Planning Division distributes amendments for review for other county departments, and Fire Rescue had provided a letter regarding an anticipated extended response time to the subject property. And as a result, Facilities and Development Operations, in conjunction with Fire Rescue, is asking to seek board direction regarding dedication of land to support a future fire station. Today we have Mr. Eric McClellan here from FDO Strategic Planning to provide just a brief synopsis of their request.
Thank you very much, Travis. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that I do not know, my name is Eric McClellan. Thank you. I serve as the Director of Strategic Planning for the county's Facilities Development and Operations Department, and it is always an honor and privilege to be able to represent our brave women, men and women with Fire Rescue. To briefly explain the relationship, Fire Rescue is obviously the service provider. They set the priorities for delivery of new stations. They measure all of the response time and number of calls received, and make siting decisions. Facilities Development Operations is then basically their real estate and construction partner to make sure there is the ability to deliver their facilities into the future. What's important in this case to understand is the county's comprehensive plan establishes a average response time standard of 7 minutes and 30 seconds. This is a benchmark by which all future facilities siting and delivery is measured. By comparison, the FY23 average response time in the subject property service area was 8 minutes and 18 seconds, and the estimated response time to the subject site is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. These conditions do raise our concerns for elevated risk to life and property by introducing additional population than has been anticipated by land use and facility planning to date. While the service delivery to this site is currently from Station 22 in the city of Westlake, and it is only 3.6 miles from the property, there are some unique considerations at play. First is the combination of a limited road network combined with the speeds and design of those roads, as well as the large lot pattern in the area. And this doesn't necessarily translate to a level of service that is designated to support and serve the requested 5-fold increase in density within the site and the subject service area. So without land from which to deliver a fire station, we anticipate existing deficiencies will continue to deteriorate into the future, and also the heightened generation of alarms and increased competition during any widespread or concurrent emergency events, such as those we saw in the last couple of days, will have a detrimental effect upon fire rescue delivery to this community. What I want to briefly show, this is a map that was prepared by Fire Rescue to analyze the existing